Welcome to the Challenging Child Podcast, where you'll discover ideas to help change the behaviour of a child who is aggressive, defiant, controlling, or dishonest. Let's join Gill from Stressed Parent.
Now, I've taught stress management in industry for over 20 years, but it took becoming a parent of a challenging child to really know what stress is. I'm still learning how to manage my stress, so I'm going to be on this journey with you. I'd like you to imagine being in Hawaii and you're watching the surfers riding those massive waves. They've got such amazing skills, such amazing talent, but they haven't always had that. At one point they were beginners learning to ride those waves. They had to get that amazing poise and that balance. Now, we can all, like those surfers, learn how to ride the parenting wave and get some more balance in our lives. Some of us are going to be better surfers than others, but we can all learn to ride that wave, and resilience is one of the ways of doing it. So this e-learning course is all about building your resilience to stress less. But what is resilience in the first place? I think it's a number of different things. I think it's the ability to bounce back. So we all have knockbacks, regardless of who we are. And it's how we bounce back from that and how quickly we bounce back from it. I think it's being able to bring out the best in yourself during the worst situations. I think people who are resilient, they will find difficulties not quite so difficult. And if you watch somebody who's resilient, they're likely to have a much bigger comfort zone where they feel comfortable operating. Now, we can all stretch and grow our comfort zones. One way of doing it is to do something extreme like a bungee jump where you really face your fears. If you don't fancy that, then I can help you stretch your comfort zone in this e-learning. And I think one of the mottos that people who are resilient have is not about trying harder, but trying different. And I'm going to teach you during this e-learning on how to do things differently. Can you remember life before sat-navs? We'd go to somewhere like Birmingham and we knew exactly which motorways we wanted to take. We knew exactly which junction to come off, and we knew which car park we liked. We'd always get a space there. And then the sat-navs come along and it tells us to come off a junction early, and it takes us down all these little country lanes that we've never seen before. And it's like, these are so narrow, you can only get one car through, and it's, are you sure this is the right way? And it feels a little bit uncomfortable. But eventually, over time, we've got used to our sat-navs, and we've actually started to enjoy taking different journeys and taking different routes. And our brains aren't much different to the map of the UK. We have roads, we have dual carriageways, we have motorways, we have country lanes. I'm going to be teaching you to discover some new country lanes and to do things in a slightly different way. After all, we're all creatures of habit. So what I'd like you to do, and just play along with me for now, is I'd like you to fold your arms. It's probably something you do on a daily basis. You do it without thinking about it, and it feels fairly comfortable. But now what I'd like you to do is to fold your arms the other way so that the other arm is on top. And I can never do this. And it takes me quite a long time to know that's gone back to my old way. Oh, there we go. I've done it, but boy, that feels really strange and very uncomfortable. On this e-course, I'm going to cover 3 things that you can use to start reducing your stress and building resilience. And the first one is looking at our old ways, our old habits of doing things, and developing some new ones. Remembering that to start with, like the folding of the arms, they might just not feel quite natural and comfortable, but with practice and repetition, they will become second nature. So on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see something called downloads, and in there is a handout for you to just spend some time really reflecting on some of the things that you do, the old ways of doing things that you're not really happy about, you'd like to change, and then start to think about how you can change them. Now, as a prompt, you'll also find some little mantras that I've put in there that you can cut out, stick on your fridge, dot around the house as little prompts to help you change and have new habits. I think that we can't change our children overnight, but we can change them over time. You may have heard me say that before, but the secret is the change starts with you. Have you heard of the marshmallow experiment? There were some scientists a number of years ago, and they got some toddlers and they put some marshmallows in front of them. And they said to the toddler, you can either eat one marshmallow now, or if you wait 20 minutes for a toddler, you get to have 2 marshmallows. And the secret for the toddlers who managed to resist eating the 1 marshmallow was distraction. They would look at the marshmallow, they might play with the marshmallow, they might stretch the marshmallow out, they might balance it on their nose, they might sniff the marshmallow, they might take a sneaky little lick at the marshmallow, but they managed to not eat the marshmallow. And they followed those toddlers throughout their life, and they realised that actually those toddlers who didn't eat that 1 marshmallow became more successful in life. And it was because of their ability to distract. Now, we all get hugely upset with our children because they're always being distracted by all sorts of things and never focusing on what we want them to focus on. But distraction is an amazing, amazing coping mechanism. If you ever read any books by people who've been hostages or who've had survival situations in prisoner of war camps, they will have survived through distraction. They will have done mental maths inside their head, or recited poems, or sung to themselves, or had conversations with loved ones inside their head. And that's what got them through. So the second step I'm going to tell you out of these 3 steps in this first free trial is to start thinking about how you can distract. You want to distract yourself, so if you can feel yourself getting so overwrought that you're going to explode, go and distract yourself. Do the washing up, run up the stairs and down the stairs, whatever it takes for you just to distract yourself and stop yourself from exploding. But if your children are really kicking off and you want to start changing their patterns of behaviour, then you need to do something a little bit extreme. Do you remember the movie Patch Adams? It was quite a long time ago with Robin Williams. But it was a true story about a psychologist who was also a clown. I'm going to take this off because it's incredibly itchy. Now, Patch Adams, he decided that the way out of mental institutions was through humour. But he used his humour in all sorts of amazing ways. And he took his clowning to the war-torn Bosnia. And he went out onto the front line. Now you can imagine the adrenaline that's pumping through the fighters on the front line in Bosnia. A bit like the stress levels and the adrenaline in your child, quite possibly. But when Patch Adams, incredibly brave thing to do, walked out on that front line, there was always a ceasefire. I'm sure you agree that distraction is a powerful, powerful tool. One to play around with. Go out and get yourself a red wig. The third message I have for you is extreme self-care. Now, I know you've heard it a million times before that you need to look after yourself, and I want to stress that. Most of us get by coping. You know, we'll ask how you are and you'll say, yeah, I'm okay, I'm doing okay. But coping is exhausting. When we cope with the situation of a challenging child, we often accommodate the challenges. We're like sponges, we absorb them. We start to adapt ourselves around them. You might find yourself treading on eggshells a little bit. And we tolerate them. In the moment, that's probably all fine, but over time, it's exhausting. It won't allow your child to change and to improve how they are in their behaviour, and it can lead you to become sick. I can remember being quite sick when I first had my son and I couldn't look after him. As a single parent, somebody else had to look after him. Not great for a child with attachment difficulties. So when you join my full course, I will be teaching you quite a few different ways to relax and go through some relaxation sequences. When we're healthy and happy, we're more fun to be around. We're more compassionate towards our children, we're more patient with our children, and we're much more effective as parents. I really hope you'll benefit from those 3 simple exercises to help you build your resilience. In the next section, you're going to see some excerpts from the full e-course. You'll see examples and experiences, my own experiences of how I've managed my stress, and there'll be lots of activities and times for you to reflect on building your resilience. Let's take a look at that now. And you may have heard me speak already about how I always felt before adoption like I was fresh Play-Doh. I was bright, I was vibrant, I smelt lovely, I was so flexible, and I was really, really, really fun to play with. And then about a year into adoption, I was more like old Play-Doh. I was dull, I was lifeless, I was boring, and I crumbled easily. But I have a theory that when we're stressed, we get a triple whammy of stress. So we experience the stress and we experience all those negative sensations, feelings, emotions, physically, mentally and emotionally. Do you remember in the last chapter we covered that? Then because we're so busy, we stop doing the leisure activities. So we don't get any of those good feelings that you should be experiencing through having some leisure time. And the third part of the triple whammy is the guilt that we feel. One is the guilt for not doing those things that we normally do. So we've just cancelled somebody. We were going to meet up for them for coffee or going to the cinema, and we've cancelled them. Or we were going to go swimming and we were doing really well. We were swimming twice a week and now we haven't been for 3 weeks. Feel major guilt because of that. But we also feel guilty for the way that we're parenting our children. We all had that vision of the wonderful parents that we were going to be, and we're incredibly disappointed and guilty for not being those perfect parents. There's a lovely story of 2 people looking at a bear sitting on a drawing pin. And one person says to the other, "Why is that bear sitting on that drawing pin? And why doesn't he get up?" And the other person says, "Well, it's not painful enough yet. What needs to happen is somebody needs to push the bear's head down right onto the drawing pin and make it really painful." And I think that's true of things that we tolerate in life. They're just not bad enough yet to do something about them, and we put up with them. But if we have a lot of them, then that really drains our energy. I think it's certainly true of our children's behaviour. Sometimes we tolerate the behaviour, we feel like we're just about coping, and we don't necessarily do something about it. Smile to your child more often. I think we can forget that our children are always reading our non-verbal cues, and if we're worrying about a bill that we've got to pay, they might take that frown as about them. So really take the time to smile. So I want you to look around your room now and just have a focus on all the things in your room that are green or blue. So have a look around and see if you can see anything green or blue. And once you've done that, I want you just to out loud recount all the things in your room that are red and purple. That's kind of tricky to do when I've asked you to look for green and blue, and what we put our focus on will become our reality. So when we have a perspective lens of right and wrong, we start looking at all the things that are wrong with our children, and that can start to colour how we perceive our children, and we can really find lots of things wrong with them, and that's not healthy and that's not helpful. So start looking at what's right about your children and what they're doing right. The secret of regulating ourselves and managing our stress, even if we just do it 50% of the time, that would be amazing. We're not looking at being perfect. That is not what's required here. It's about just adjusting ourselves, moderating our reactions, keeping a lid on our own anger just a little bit of the time, and then a little bit more of the time, and eventually if you get to 50% of the time, you're doing really, really well. We don't want to let our children get to us. We can't change them overnight, but we can change our reactions, and we are responsible, as I've said, to de-escalate situations, and we need to be playful with this. When you're facing a problem, just think to yourself, this too shall pass. Imagine in 5 years' time, will it still be a problem then? So let me help you. Join me on my full course, Building Resilience to Stress Less, by clicking on the link below.